Hello, I'm ToycatA, and you might be familiar with the fact that in Minecraft, end portal frames have a 1 in 10 chance of being filled with an Eye of Ender. This means that if you have 12 end portal frames and you want all of them to be filled up, there is a 1 in a trillion chance that you will find an end portal already formed. This is fine on Java, where there is 18 quintillion seeds, and therefore that has happened, but on the Bedrock edition, it is very unlikely, next to impossible, that we'll ever find a seed with all 12 Eye of Enders, and in fact, this seed right here with 7 Eye of Enders is the most impressive, the largest number ever found. Today, I'm going to be sharing that seed with all of you, and I'm going to be talking about the fact that even though this is the biggest discovery we've had on Bedrock so far, as far as Eye of Enders in the portal, which had to be manually found, by the way, there's no seed searching tools. That's why we haven't found an 8 or a 9, Eye of Ender seed, despite the fact that those are possible. There is likely 1 or 2 of them out there. But interesting enough, even though, this is the biggest discovery, this is not the most important part of this seed, and in fact, it's not a very important bit altogether, and let me explain why, because although I could hype it up and be like, this is the biggest, most exciting thing ever, in reality, even though this is a really cool stronghold, you can see how it's an end portal which you can access from 2 rooms. It's not often you get little hallways leading off your end portal, so that's kind of fun and cool by itself. The reality is, look at the coordinates for this end portal. This is not near spawn. When I share with you all that there's a chest right here that has some iron armor and some iron boots, you might think that's kind of cool. You can find some free loot in a chest, but when I tell you that that same loot in that chest is about 12,000 blocks away from spawn, you're less confused. And the reason for that is because although something can be great, something can be useful, and something can be a benefit, if that thing is too much work for that benefit, it doesn't become so useful. And the same thing is true for this end portal. Getting to the end and only requiring 5 Eye of Enders as opposed to 12 is kind of useful, only if, though, it is easy enough to get to that end portal. In fact, easier to get to the end portal than it is to just get the 7 Eye of Enders yourself, which is maybe true for survival, but is definitely not true for speedrunning. And that's why I wanted to show you this seed and kind of leave this to the side and just say this is a thing you can find on the seed, but it's not what I recommend, because when you type in this seed to any Minecraft version that just calls itself Minecraft, when you type in this seed, you'll spawn right over here, and this is a really interesting spawn location that you might already be able to spot why, because this is perhaps the closest we've seen in a very long time for a spawn to give you next to not only a jungle, but a jungle temple as well. Jungle temples over time seem to have been rarer and rarer, even though the desert temples are found everywhere, jungle temples are a pretty rare thing, and they're a really cool structure that are hard to find on a seed, but this seed has them right next to the spawn. As well as that, I marked the spawn with a beacon, by the way. If you want to, you can also find right below the spawn, there's a cave. Why is there a cave down here filled with water? I don't really know, but yeah, the fact that you spawn above one of these, cool little coincidence, and you might think that that's like, okay, well, I mean, a cave and a jungle temple, that's not so great, ToycatA, but what if I said it gets better? Because if we go this way round, beyond finding a bamboo plant, something that people spend a lot of effort trying to get, if we just go to the north over here, you can see how there is a spruce village, which incidentally goes slightly into the jungle, meaning that you can get yourself some jungle villagers, Minecraft's most attractive villagers, naturally, from spawn right here, something that is, again, really cool. Look at this guy right here. He's got jungle clothing on because he spawned in a jungle. That's how this works. Villager spawns in the jungle, looks like a jungle villager. Villager spawns in the spruce, looks like a spruce villager. And the fact that you can have 2 of Minecraft's rarer villager types combined right next to spawn is really great. And you know what makes it even greater? The fact that this is a spruce village, so even though it doesn't have blacksmiths, which are usually one of the common things, you're still going to get crops, you're still going to get pumpkins, which is really nice in my opinion, and you're also still going to find all the other rare loot chests around this place. So this is, for instance, a leather workers, I think, chest, and you can see leather pants and some bread. Really nice little start. But even better than those things, in my opinion, the really nice thing about spawning in a spruce biome that people forget about because it's just such a small feature, it's not that useful by itself, is the berry bushes. The sweet berry bushes which spawn all around this place. You're going to find a lot of them everywhere, and that is rather great in my opinion, because it means that combine the berries, which are a thing you don't think about very often, combine those with the the bamboo, which is something, again, most people either get once and don't think about too much, or they struggle with for a while. You can experience some of Minecraft's newest features, and then it gets better because just go a little bit more to the west of this village, and then you can also experience, if you really want to play the villager game, and when you've got a village as nice as that one, why wouldn't you? You can find how there is right over here a Pillager Outpost. This is a really cool one in my opinion, not only because it's pretty close to your spawn, it's pretty close to your jungle, it's pretty close to your existing village, which is between 2 biomes, but also just in case you're too lazy to go back and forth, there's also a village right here that you can fight if you want to get those totems of undying. Again, rarish feature. There's also this thing right here, which I find horrifying. Look at this. This is a villager's house, which is somehow combined with the, the villager cage, giving you a caged villager. That is, the golden cage, I should say. It is a crazy thing to see. It is a weird mishmash that I've never seen on a Minecraft seed before. And again, it's shocking to me because this is just a village you can choose to use. Realistically, they'll die at some point if you leave the... If you're not really careful about this thing, you can see how already, within a few minutes me getting here, stuff has started dying. But even dead, this village is useful, not only because of the villager cage who can't die, but also because, guess what? There's the blacksmith chest that you were missing before, 6 obsidian, 2 bread, some boots, and also a little friendly face standing right outside, blocking the way to go any further. This is a weird, wacky spruce village that, again, everyone's focusing on the seed because it's the first 7 IF Ender seed for Minecraft Bedrock. That's great, but this stuff is really nice too, in my opinion. If you want to enjoy Minecraft's other new update and somehow haven't been able to, then just the north of all of that, there is also a village which has some bees. The reason it has bees is because there's a bee nest in one of the trees in this plains, because obviously jungle trees and spruce trees don't have bees. Again, realistically, this isn't something most people are concerned with, but again, it's a really short journey of just a few hundred blocks to the north if you want to get between your jungle village over there and this village. As you can see, I can see them both in the same frame right now, even with the Xbox One's pretty low render distance, so that is a really nice find, in my opinion. And just in case, when you're done with all of that and you're like, okay, so I've got my bee update, I've got my, panda and village update, I've got myself, pretty much every last update, even the berry update, etc. What about, when you want to play around with the Nether update, the most recent one? Well, you have to build your Nether portal yourself, besides the 6 bits that you got from before. You could obviously go find a ruin portal, but there's none too close to spawn, but it's okay. You want to have your portal next to the village, that makes sense, I get you. Like, there's a pretty decent argument that if you're a, long-term survival player, if you intend to play on a world for a really long time, it's actually not worth using ruin portals anyway, because they'll mess up the Nether portal linking and they make it really hard to undo later. So just place your Nether portal exactly where you want it, right here in front of my, as you can see, I've got a little toolsmith, stonemason rather, from the jungle, just chilling right here. Wow, right in front of him, I'm gonna have a Nether portal, and what do you find on the other side? That's right, it is the Wart Forest. This is the ultimate nail in the coffin, in my opinion, though, as to why you don't need that stronghold that's really far away from spawn, because you can get ender pearls really easily. Ender pearls are the bigger limiting factor to make IF Enders, because as you can see from my high quality graphic on screen, to make an IF Ender, you need an ender pearl and you need some blaze powder, and you get blaze powder like 2 to 1 from blaze rods. So you need 6 blaze rods and 12 ender pearls. Ender pearls are harder than blaze rods anyway, and therefore ender pearls are the biggest limiting factor. But when you spawn in a biome full of them, is it really going to be the case? By the way, just in case you really want to get to that, end portal and you're like, I'm willing to go for it anyway, ToycatA, you might say it's worthless, but I really want to experience what it's like to have half the work done for me by the game, then the best way to get there, because it's 12,000 blocks in the overworld, all you have to do in the Nether is go in this vague direction, kind of diagonally, so you're going up in the X and slightly up in the Z, because you want to get to about, what would that be, like 1,000 blocks on the X-axis, and you want to get to about 500 blocks on the Z. So again, doing that in the Nether is harder than it sounds without an Elytra, and you don't have an Elytra because you haven't killed the dragon yet. But if you can get to 500 on the Z and 1,000 on the X, which I'll try and do right now as I show you, even in creative. This is me flying around. This is me with no cares about the environment. Let me show you, and the overworld and how fast it takes you to get through it. Let me show you how long it actually takes. And let me explain the fact that, like, one of the key things about every seed is proximity. I get a lot of seed requests, which, by the way, you can email to the address on screen right now, toycatassistant@gmail.com. But I get a lot of like, oh my god, I found the most amazing seed, and a lot of people even shared this person's seed with me. This is from 19Hammer87. A lot of people shared his seed on his behalf. Some of them were even kind of cheeky and tried to claim it as their own. But the interesting thing about that is, like, well, if the thing is really far away from spawn, it's not as useful as you might think. I love that we found a 7, IF Ender end portal, don't get me wrong, but the reason we found this is because clearly he was going to all of the end portals in his world, trying to find one like that. But the thing is, if it's not your closest end portal to spawn, it doesn't help speedrunners, and if it takes this long, okay, we're almost there now, except we've gone a little bit back on the Z-axis. If we're like already, okay, nope, gotta still go further. If it takes even this long in creative, then it makes you question, like, okay, is it really that valuable? Unless you are playing this weird pseudo half creative, half survival world where you're willing to build your Nether tunnel in creative for whatever reason, then I wouldn't say this is the most valuable thing. We actually have to go to about 1100 on the X, which is starting to cause some issues. You know what, we'll just go right here. We'll be lazy, and we'll still be some, like, thousands of blocks away in the overworld. This is the effort. This is what we have to go through to make it happen. Now imagine trying to do not only that initial journey in survival, but regularly doing that journey every time you want to go to the end. It doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, in my opinion. Yeah, so we are now about 200 blocks that way and 600 blocks that way, still from the end portal. That's about a normal distance that we have to travel. Again, apparently via boat, because we would have to mine through the wall. It's a challenging thing to get to this end portal in survival. 12,000 blocks will take you, if you walk in the overworld, a couple of hours, and that's assuming you don't get distracted. And that's a great thing you can do to explore, but at that point, do you know, again, if you want to explore a fresh world that you've never seen anything about, is Seed Sunday the thing that you're using for that? It might be, it might not be. But yeah, also, you have to go down below an ocean, apparently, according to my... You're not... Guess we're going below the ocean for this stronghold. Because the further you get away from spawn, the less the strongholds seem to correlate with villages, I find. That's my experiences, at least. Okay, here we are. We're inside the end portal. As you can see, look at this thing. It's nice. And then we're back at the end portal with the 7 IF Enders. I will say there's one handy thing you can do with this, though. Like, you know, this is a seed I recommend for the spawn area. Use this as a secondary thing. I wouldn't base your entire decision on this, because again, at some point with enough seed searchers, we will find an 8 and maybe even a 9 IF Ender seed. I think 8 is is very, very unlikely, but it's going to happen. 9 is like, who knows if it ever will. But here's a really cool thing you can do. If we place all of our IF Enders right over here, we can travel from here, 12,000 blocks from spawn, back to the spawn just by killing the dragon, or in my case, we'll just pretend we killed the dragon and be like, wow, this was a really good fight we had with the Ender Dragon. And it means that by just walking 100 blocks in the end, we can now, as you can see, I killed the dragon, so I get myself some end portal block, which is, as we all know, that's how you do this. I can now travel all of those blocks back to that spawn area, you know, where I placed that beacon. I can do that, and as you can see, this is 12,000 blocks covered in, you know, 100 blocks distance, covered in about 10 seconds. And it means you can also have multiple things lead to the same place, because the closest stronghold to spawn is 1,000 blocks away. This same end portal, which by the way only has 1 IF Ender in it, so you need to get 11 more. Although 10, because this guy's in the corner. This same end portal will take you to the same end as before. You'll notice it's exactly the same place, despite being, you know, 15,000 blocks apart, 13,000 blocks apart in the overworld, which is kind of crazy. But then, if you go back through the end portal in the center, because we've killed the dragon, as you can see, once you go back through that same end portal, you get back to the same spawn position. So you can use, and this is something you can do for every world, but it's notable here because it's easier to do. You can use that fact to link all of your end portals in your world back to the spawn location and to travel huge distances instantly as opposed to fast, which happens in the Nether. Anyway, I hope you've all enjoyed this week's Seed Sunday. Did you enjoy the mild technicalities and the lessons outside that can be applied to any Minecraft seed, not just this one? Or do you think we should focus entirely on the seed? Let me know, and then I'll ignore your comments. But one thing I do want to do is I want to thank my assistant, if you don't know, who put this together. You might have seen her email earlier in the video. Yeah, so if you got a seed, send the seed suggestion over to me. She checks them out and then lets me know if they're worth checking out in some way. Because there are a lot of people who claim to have seen a lot of things, and some of those claims aren't always true, some of them are. But if you have an amazing seed, send it over. And thank you to her putting this together, because you know what? It has been a while since we've annoyed the editor. So let's go ahead and say, look at all this bread. We can make a leather pants sandwich. There we go. See, I was nice, and now I'm mean. And that is the cycle of life. Is it not, Mr. Gollum? Goodbye.